science method. I love graphs. They take boring numbers and turn them into visual representations which can allow me to see the patterns in the story underneath. In this video, we're going to look at how to set up our axes correctly and avoid some common mistakes. So if you want to make some really pretty graphs or just want to ace your exams, keep watching. Let's say, for example, we've got a table of data that looks like this. We've got distance and number of bubbles, so maybe they're investigating photosynthesis. So to set up our graph, we need a nice sharp pencil and a ruler. Now your graph wants to be a reasonable size, so it's capable of being viewed, and I would suggest that a good size is 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. So first of all, you need to draw on the lines your axes, our x-axis across the bottom and our y-axis going up the top. Now, then what you want to do is look in your data table, and this column on the left is going to go on the x-axis, the column on the right on the y-axis. And you want to look for the highest number in each one, and maybe you can just circle it so you can see what we're doing. So my highest number here is 10, highest number here is 64. So, on this x-axis, I need to go from 0 up to 10, and I want to make sure that I'm going to increase by the same amount each time. So for example, here, I'm going to use each centimeter tick on my ruler. So I'm going to start with 0, 1 centimeter, 2. Okay, so I've got 10 ticks. Okay, they're all equally spaced, starting from the origin here. Now I need to go from 0 to 10, so it's going to make sense that each of these is going to be an increase of 1. Okay, so that's nice and simple. For this other axis, slightly more complicated, we can see that my highest number is 64. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to 64, add a little bit, so I need to know that I'm going to go up to 70. And again, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go up 1 centimeter and each 10. And here, I'm just going to stop at 70. I don't need to go any further than that. So what are some common mistakes? Well, here at the bottom, I've got 3 examples of where these go wrong. Here we can see that this is nice and evenly spaced. This is perfect. However, here, there's a big gap between 0 and the first point. Okay? Always remember to start from 0 and make sure that 0 aligns on the y-axis. In this example, we can see that the spacing is completely uneven. Small space, big space, small space, big space, big space, okay? Should be evenly spaced across the whole axis. This is one of the first things the examiner is going to look for. If they see this, you're going to lose those marks that you could easily have got. In the third example here, we can see all my tick marks are nice and evenly spaced. However, the numbers are all a bit of a jumble. Okay, 64, 58, 45, 20, 11, 5. Okay, for the first thing, they should be in ascending order, going from 5 up to 64. But we can see that the gap in between each number is pretty random. So how does this mistake occur? Well, generally it's because what someone might do is look in the table, first number 64, and they just write that there. Second number 58, they write it down there, okay? Don't do that. Make sure you plot your axis first, then once you have your axis plotted, then you can go. Now that we know how to set up our axes, we need to be able to put some labels on them so I know what these numbers mean. Do these numbers mean the number of cows in a field? Is it the distance? Is it number of bubbles? Is it the rate of photosynthesis? What are these numbers telling us? So, here is an example of a data table. Got distance from the lamp, number of bubbles produced in 1 minute. Now, this left-hand column is going to go on the x-axis. This is my independent variable and my dependent variable, which goes on the y-axis. For a recap on variables, click on the link in the description below. So all you need to do is copy exactly the same thing that's in the heading here. So you just copy it out, word for word, exactly the same, making sure that you include, in brackets, the units for the measurement that you're taking. In this instance here, the number of bubbles is an arbitrary number, there's no unit, it's just a number, and so therefore there are no units. Now, once we've got our axes, we need to give our graph a title. And the title needs to include both variables. So you must include what's on the x-axis and what is on the y-axis. So in this case, I've got distance from the lamp and number of bubbles produced. So I'm going to start off by saying graph showing the effect. Now you can always start your titles like this, graph showing the effect of, and then what comes after of, it's this thing on the x-axis. So it's graph showing the effect of, and then you're going to say on, and then say what's on the y-axis. Okay, make sure that your title is underlined. Now a handy hint is that sometimes in a question you may be given a description of the experiment. So here, an experiment was done to investigate the effect of distance from a light source on the number of bubbles produced by a plant. So just look carefully in the description of the experiment, you'll see here, effective distance from a light source on the number of bubbles produced by a plant. And you can see that that's going to help you to write your title. So you can write it the same way it's described in the question. Just look for those keywords, effect of, and then on. That's going to tell you your x-axis and your y-axis. This method works really well for plotting line graphs. However, sometimes you might want to draw a bar graph, in which case you need to use a slightly different method to lay out the x-axis. For more information about choosing a line graph or a bar chart, please see the video linked in the description below. So with a bar graph then, and our axes, what we need to do is make sure that the columns are equally spaced and at equal width. So the way that I would do this is I would make the columns or the bars 2 centimeters across and give a 1 centimeter space in between. So first of all, I'm going to mark a 1 centimeter space, 2 centimeters for my column, then a 1 centimeter space, 2 centimeters for my column, 1 centimeter space, 2 centimeters for my column. So now I can see that my columns are going to go here. Okay, this is my column. Let's call it A, B, and C.